Well, hello, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch. I said Twitter. I've been getting so good at saying X instead of Twitter. Um, Regardless, my name is Frank Lavinia. You can catch me at Frank Diggs Data. And a couple things. One, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock or don't live in North America, there's an eclipse crossing the majority of the United States today. And maybe I'll live stream that, but I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of people doing the same. But also, I don't want to stress out the network connection. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll have a different opinion after the third cup of coffee. But there's something I like to show you. I've been working on trying to get this set up for a while, and I finally got it working on the work laptop. And this is my new-ish um, Wacom tablet. Um, One of the challenges I've had with I don't know, what did I do with the old one? With the old one is I'd have to write, apparently I lost it. It's that kind of day. I'm blaming everything today that goes wrong on the Eclipse. Oh, here it is. And everything that goes right. So I've had this for since the pandemic started, actually. I was giving a presentation and I was giving a presentation and I was trying to hand draw something. I think it was a data lake logo with the mouse. And when you try to draw with the mouse, it never works right. And part of that is it feels kind of unnatural. Another part of it is that the sample rate on a mouse is about 40 times per second, maybe 60 times per second. Um, the sample rate on a stylus is at a minimum 120. Sometimes it's higher. And you're probably thinking, Frank, how do you know this? It's just a random bit of information. It's because if you look there, I used to be a tablet PC MVP for Microsoft. I did a lot of handwriting recognition and things like that, which led me into neural networks, oddly enough, because I was fascinated by the notion that you could train a computer to recognize handwriting through neural networks, which everybody knows now as the MNIST example. When they do their training and certification in AI. So what I wanted to show was this here. So one of the problems with drawing separately from where you see it is takes practice, to do. And I've noticed if I'm really thinking about something, the handwriting gets really bad, right? The handwriting quality drops precipitously. So I use a program called Microsoft Whiteboard. And what's changed now is I now have the display on the actual device that I write it on. So theoretically, my writing should be better. Um, and this isn't clickbait, so I'm actually going to talk about the Eclipse. Let's see if I still can grab that screenshot here. Where is it? So that is not it. So I don't have glasses. I didn't buy them because I really didn't think that I would need them, because I didn't think the Eclipse was going to be across a wide swath of the country. And shame on me, but I wanted to show you how does this relate to data. I think it's a good analogy. So you may be familiar with, obviously the big players in here are the sun. Okay, why is this? And the moon. Hold on. Let me redo this. So much for my rating being better, right? So the big players here are the sun and the moon, right? And all of us, right? Now, without getting too philosophical, we are actually all on the Earth, right? And the point I'm trying to break out here is that this will happen inside the shadow of the sun, and this would be the raw data, I suppose. This would be the process of filtering data. And this here would be the end result. Yeah, this analogy is going to need some more work. This analogy is going to need more work. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because what's interesting is that it appears that NASA is going to be launching satellites to during the eclipse to get a read on how the Earth's magnetic field will be affected, and is that the problem? Is that why animals tend to freak out during an eclipse? Now, is it because of the circadian rhythm being disruptive? I've only ever been through one eclipse that I remember, actually two. One, I was a kid, and it was overcast that day. It was very rainy. All of a sudden, it went from "Hey, it's dark out" to "Hey, it's not dark out." It was very strange. And then I was in North Carolina. I think it was during the 2014 or the 2017 eclipse, and it was cool because what you don't realize is how the being in the dark kind of affects the weather. So it got windy, and it was an interesting thing. Plus, um, we were there. We were in the Outer Banks, and the local school there had this whole like fair going on. It was really cool. So you can like look through like they had this like big X-ray thing, not X-ray, but it was like a big sheet this big. You could look at the eclipse and things like that. They were teaching people like how to take pictures with your phone, which for some reason people are saying now not to do that, but I don't know. Um, I would say I'd still have that phone, but later in that vacation, I ended up going into the ocean with the phone in my pocket. So the phone didn't survive, but it was not the eclipse's fault. Um, so I like this. I like the ability here to be able to draw in a way that makes more sense. And for those of you wondering, what's the origin of me having this drawing? I started when I had to draw a logo for a data lake, right? Oops, that's a bucket. So one of the logos that Microsoft liked to use is the database logo, but a data lake had this in it, something like that. And I remember struggling on a call with a customer for like 5 minutes to draw that stupid logo. So later that night, I went to Micro Center and was just like, you know what, for $50. But if you've watched my live streams and you've heard me give presentations, you'll know I use this quite a bit. So the other option would be to get the giant one, but that's a couple $1,000s. This is actually at Sam's Club, and it was about 200. So one of the common things I talk about, and that's probably why muscle memory kicked in and I drew a bucket, was this idea of data engineering. And this leads to you a story about a vacation also in North Carolina, oddly enough. And how we saw this thing, it was for gem mining, and it said gem mining, fun for the whole family, right? And I was like, I don't know, man. Going underground, getting dirty, that doesn't sound like fun for the whole family. Helmets and things like that. No, no, no. Actually, what it was you go to the place, you buy a bucket of dirt. That bucket of dirt has rocks in it, semi-precious stones, that sort of thing. You then, this is where the kids love, you take that bucket of dirt and you dump it out into these what are they called? They're panning. You're panning for gold, like in the olden times, in the old west. And then the idea is you wash the dirt off all the the rocks and you figure out like, hey, what type of crystal do you have in there and things like that, right? Speaking of kids, they ran off with my sample one, but basically it's the idea you have these rocks, sometimes geodes or things like that, and then they always have a gemologist on staff, and you'll see why. It's basically a way to get kids into a jewelry store and buy things for their mom, um, basically. So they have a gemologist there, and the gemologist will look at the big rock you have and say, "Hey, you have something special here. There's something here." They usually have magnifying glasses, right? And they'll look at that, and they'll say, "You have something special here. Let's, if for an added fee, we'll cut down that rock, and we'll make a nice polished gem out of it, right?" And then you come back either the same day or the next couple of days, and you will notice that they'll show you the display, and they'll see it and they'll say, this is really nice to look at. But what you really need is you need to put that on a ring. And I will not sing to save your ears, right? So what does this have to do with data engineering? I'll show you, because as I'm doing it, it reminded me of work. And I don't mean the actual physical work of lugging like a 50-pound bucket of dirt and then rinsing it off and then subsequently cleaning off the kids. This here is pretty analogous to raw data. And the process of getting the raw data, washing off all the dirt, is pretty spot on if you want to call it data engineering. These little nuggets of wisdom, we call that BI, right? This is where the story would generally end. You put this up on a website. These are KPIs. Put it up on a dashboard, and you're done. That's it. Game over. However, over the last 10 years, data scientists have come in and said, you know what? Inside of that metric, inside of that KPI, there's some wisdom there. If this happens, that happens. Can we refine that further? Can we build a predictive model to get that done? And then here's where the interesting part comes, this is deployment. Because again, the model in and of itself has value, yes, but it's really more potential value, right? This is where it becomes potential or an academic exercise. And this is where you get real business value. That makes sense. And again, I think one of the things that is not immediately obvious, though when you take a step back and look at it, it does start to become obvious. When we think of AI, we tend to think of, this person here. We tend to think of the data scientist, right? And data scientist is obviously a crucial part of this. However, what about these folks, data engineers? What about the raw data? How's that data getting in there? Who's making sure the lights are on the servers that this raw data is coming in? Who's making sure the network connections, right? All that sort of stuff. So that's why you'll hear me say that for every 1 unit of a data science person is doing, there's about 10 units of what a data engineer is doing, and arguably 100x, maybe 1,000x units of what IT ops is doing. Right? This is the data. It is, oops. You can tell I'm enjoying writing where I can see it, not having to do that extra cognitive work. um, to production. Data science, the sign is telling me we lost connection, which I am promptly going to blame on the Eclipse. And with that in mind, you know, you'll also hear me talk about rock stars and roadies, right? It's the idea that when we go to a concert, right, we buy the ticket, this ticket, we buy the ticket to see the rock star on the stage, right? So did all these other people. But what you don't see is you don't see the people behind the scenes or the people doing the lighting, right? The sound, right? Make sure everything sounds good. The wiring that makes it all work. The um, the wiring that makes it all work. And all of that is something that I think maps pretty well, right? We tend to think of the rock star. And Candace, I see your IM. I will be on the call shortly. Um, so we tend to think of this, but we don't think about that, right? Now, this person does work hard, right? This rock star does work hard, but I would say if there's only one of them, and there's dozens of other people that are serving the crowd here. Now, to bring it home, let's see, to bring it home, talk about this. The two big players in today's eclipse are obviously the sun, and you have the moon. Put a little face there. And but what you don't see, still important, gravity, the basic laws of physics. Those are all things that contribute to today's show that we just take for granted. And I think the same holds true for IT ops, just basic aspects of IT. So the next time you read an article about Claude does this, GPT does that, Dolly does this, and Gemini makes a really bad mistake. Love Google, I really do. Think about all the work that went in behind the scenes to enable and train those models and to enable and serve those models. Guarantee you when ChatGPT goes down, you notice. And that is operations right there. With that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you for joining. And wherever you are watching the eclipse, if it's at least watchable where you are, be safe. Use glasses, use your phone or whatever. Um, don't don't lose your eyesight over it. All right, I'm signing off.